Hi guys, and welcome to Car Focused. Today you join me in the cabin of a 2017 17 plate Ford Mustang, but it's a Ford Mustang Ecoboost this time round. I've had the V8. I thought it'd be interesting to drive the Ecoboost version just to see how it compares, not only to the V8 Mustang but also to my Focus RS, as they share the same engine. Quick shout out as always to TC Harrison Ford for loaning me this vehicle for the day. My RS has gone in for a checkup, nothing out of the ordinary, just to check up to see there's no issues and make sure everything is okay. Anyway, this Mustang, so this particular Mustang that I'm driving, it's a demo car actually for sale now with TC Harrison. It's on about 6,600 miles. It's finished in frozen white, which looks really good on this car. It's got the black 19-inch alloy wheels, and it's also the convertible version. So anyway, yes, this car, so it's a 2.3 litre Ecoboost, same engine as the RS as I've already mentioned, producing about 317 PS, 432 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 60 takes about 5.8 seconds. Prices for the Ecoboost Mustang start out at £33,645, which is around a £4,000 saving on the base model GT, which is a hell of a lot of money really if you think about it. You can buy quite a nice car for £4,000. Now it has fully independent rear suspension, a limited slip diff. Combined cycle economy wise, the book states it's 34 miles per gallon. Possibly going to be a bit worse than that, but we'll reset the trip on here and we'll see how we do in that respect. This car weighs in at 1,715 kilograms, which is also a bit lighter than the GT, which is I think just under 1,800. And boot space, you get 332 litres of boot space, 2 seats in the rear, full leather interior. Just quickly going back to the rear seats, I love how they're sort of sculpted bucket seats for 2 people in the back. It looks really cool. You get your Sync 3 infotainment system, reverse camera, parking sensors. This one's got the Shaker Pro audio, which is an optional extra. Power fold mirrors, auto lights, blah blah blah, cruise control, you know, the usual sort of things that most modern day cars now have. Quite a nice sort of quality finish in this car as well. You've got the faux leather dashboard, the nice kind of aluminium trim around here, and it just feels quite solid. Granted, there are sort of harder plastics around the gear stick, door cards are quite hard plastics, but as with most Fords, the touch points do feel very nice. I don't know why the Focus RS doesn't have this, but it has a track apps feature, which I think is really cool. If you go into track apps, you've got your accelerometer, which sort of measures the G-forces when you're accelerating cornering, the acceleration timer, which measures 0 to 60s, 0 to 100, quarter mile times. It's really cool stuff. The brake performance, which obviously measures stopping distances, a lap timer, which is a cool feature. Basically does all the things that a V-Box timer would do. But I think, you know, with the RS being quite track focused, it should have had that. So yeah, this car, people are going to be writing this car off immediately because it's not a V8. Now, it is strange when you get in the car and you start it up, you're kind of expecting this kind of roar when you start it up, but you don't get it. You just get the 4-cylinder kind of tick over, which is a bit weird at first. When you're up and running and you're driving the car, you kind of forget about it and you don't really notice it that much, that it's a 4-cylinder. So if you're looking at the Mustang as your next car potentially, the question you've got to ask yourself is the GT worth the extra £4,000 over the Ecoboost? Particularly if you're kind of pushing yourself to afford the GT, you've got to really consider this as a cheaper alternative. Now, externally, the cars, they look practically the same. The only differences are, with the GT, you have slightly different alloys with the Brembo calipers, and you have the GT badge on the back, on the boot lid, and the 5 litre badges on the side. Pretty much, other than that, they're exactly the same. This car still has the same road presence. You still have people giving you the thumbs up, people turning their heads to look at the car. The only real difference is the sound it makes. be something that's going to kind of be a deal breaker for you? Who knows? But when you are up and running in this car, it doesn't sound too bad. You've got the Simposer pumping a bit of sound through the cabin. It does sound quite sporty. But really, everything about this car is cheaper than the GT. Fuel is cheaper, the tax is going to be cheaper, it's cheaper to buy. Probably going to go through less rear tyres because there's not as much power going through the rear. So it is a good, cheaper alternative. Now we've got a few creaks in this car though, which is a little bit annoying. The roof here is creaking a little bit where it joins up with the hard shell of the windscreen frame. But with the roof down on a summer's day, that is not going to be a problem. So the V8 GT is a real powerhouse. This is obviously quite, it's a bit down on power of the V8. But considering it's got less power than my RS and it's heavier, it doesn't really feel much slower. It feels very similar in power. It's a little bit flat from 3.5 to 5, but it does progressively pull. But a little bit like the RS, it does really come on boost at about 5,000 revs. If I accelerate now, 5,000, there we go, all of a sudden it picks up. And it does fly along, it really does. It's by all means not slow, and I don't think there's going to be that much in it between this and the GT. Maybe the GT top end of the rev range, it will pull on this a bit more because it is very, very quick at the top. But there isn't that much in it. Handling wise, it feels quite flat. It doesn't feel too wallowy. You can kind of sense that you've got a lot of length to the car. It's not the sharpest turning, but for the size and the weight, it does handle really well. And it pulls itself out the corners nicely as well if you keep it on boost. It's not too scary at the rear. Obviously it's rear wheel driven, but if you're quite conservative with the throttle, it's not too bad. It's not going to spin off the road and kill you. The V8 on the other hand can be a little bit sketchy. The only thing you do notice when you are kind of pushing on a back road, the suspension could be a little bit tighter. It tends to sort of bounce over the bumps, whereas a more kind of focused car would it would take the bumps better. Whereas when a car bounces over bumps, it kind of makes it that bit more unstable and a bit harder to control, particularly into corners. When you're bouncing around a corner, it's a bit harder to control. But if you want comfort over handling, then that's what you have to compromise with. So let's pop this car into sport mode using the aircraft style dial down there. We've got mode. You can flick through, so we'll head up into, we don't want to go into racetrack, we'll go into sports. Press OK there, and we'll put the steering in sport mode as well. You've got comfort, normal and sport. So we'll put that into sport. Throttle feels sharper immediately. It's going to be interesting to see how the steering feels. Throttle is definitely sharper though, noticeably. Brakes, this has got really huge discs on the front and on the rear, 4 piston calipers. Brakes are very good. Steering feels a bit heavier now in sport mode. It's like it's weightened up the steering. Lovely bit of road here for this car. It's quite remarkable how you can really chuck this thing around though. The size of it is remarkable. Yeah, 5,000 revs all the way up to 7. All the way to 7, it doesn't run out of puff, it just keeps going. Normally with turbo cars, they can't die off at the end. The only thing I will say is when you change gear, you have to give it a few seconds just to kind of come on to full boost again, because it doesn't quite pick back up at sort of 5,000. I said the same thing when I had the GT, but one of the things I love about this car when you're inside it is looking in the wing mirror and seeing those big arches staring back at you. It just reminds you what you're driving. Right, so let's take this roof off. So this is one of its party pieces. I'm guessing you pull that down, turn it that way, and you've got a button here. Windows come down, it gets very windy. Keep hold of the button. Et voila, the roof is down. It is quite, I do feel like my head's a bit exposed. I probably need to put the seat a bit lower. There we go. Feels really weird. I think we should go for a quick drive. But one thing I would like to add about this car, with the roof down, it looks so much nicer. This car just looks amazing with the roof down. It looks awesome anyway from the outside with the nice side skirts and the alloy wheels. But the lines of the car are really complemented when you put that thing down. And let's face it, the black fabric roof, it isn't that attractive, is it really? But this is a perfect car for a summer's day. A nice Sunday cruise. Not like the weather we've got today, but this is for the camera. So if you can't hear me from now on, I apologise. I'll put some nice music over the top or something. But anyway, building up speed. It's quite well buffeted. The wind is directed over the car. It doesn't catch your head. It's not sort of coming in from the sides. I've got the windows up to aid that. So the air is just flowing straight over, which is exactly what you want. Now if you put the windows down, I imagine that's going to change a bit. Yeah, there's a bit more breeze coming in now. But as I say, if it's a hot summer's day, you know, 30 degrees, which is very rare here, get those windows down. It'll keep you nice and cool. But it is actually quite pleasant. All you got to do is turn the heater up and it's nice and warm in here, even with this down. So we've established this car looks good, it drives well, it's cheaper than the V8 to run, it doesn't sound as good as the V8, but it has the same road presence as the V8. So if you can get past the fact that it isn't a V8, then I don't see why you wouldn't buy it. So guys, that concludes this review. The Mustang Ecoboost. Good car. Not as good as the GT, but it is cheaper. So make your own choice there, whether you'd rather save a few quid and have the 2.3 instead of the V8. I wouldn't trade it in for the RS. I think the RS is a much more focused car for what I enjoy. But if you want the comfort, the styling, and the presence on the road, then I don't see why you wouldn't get this car. Me personally, I probably would stretch and go for the GT. But if I was on a tight budget and I just wanted the Mustang brand in my life, I would pick this car. So guys, that concludes the Performance Ford range. I've test driven pretty much all the Performance Ford vehicles on the UK market. The only one I wasn't able to drive was the Focus ST Petrol, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. So the next video, I am going to conclude which car I enjoyed the most and basically which I think is the best out of the range. So stay tuned guys for the next video. Take care, and until then, I'll see you soon.